I totally trashed one of the pies. I had to re-image it.
Yep.
And it totally got trashed. But dude, man, you can get a Raspberry Pi for less than £15 or €16. A Pi Zero 2. And you can code on that thing. Like,
Yep.
You can get a Raspberry Pi 4 for about €45, £45. You can get Visual Studio Code on it, and actually you could build something and make money. Like,
it's awesome, right?
Yeah, what a time to be a developer.
Hey there, welcome to Betatalks, the podcast.
I am Rick.
And I am Oscar. And today we are joined by Jamie Maguire, who is a dedicated, personable, and enthusiastic Microsoft MVP in artificial intelligence and a certified Azure AI engineer associate. Welcome, Jamie.
Welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Well, thanks for being here. It's so great that you made time for us, and then even I think you're on a out of office location currently, right?
Undisclosed location.
Yeah, like and a wasp has just flown in through the window.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm in my van somewhere up in the Scottish Highlands. So if you see me swatting something about, it's a wasp. Anyway, yeah.
This could make for a very nice short.
we'll battle through it. Don't worry.
Yeah, just take your time and then tell us whenever you need to do something.
Yeah.
So first of all, let's for people who might not know you, could you maybe explain what it is that you do and where you actually do that? Because I don't think we explicitly mentioned either your role or where you work. So could you maybe start there?
Yeah, of course. So I'm an independent consultant and contractor who works predominantly remotely, and I deliver software and offer consultancy for clients in and around UK, Europe, and Northern America. I'm also a Pluralsight author, LinkedIn learning instructor, and I've shipped a few SaaS MVPs that are out in the wild right now. Blog regularly, active online, and maintain and contribute to open source. So a mixed bag, really. I sometimes struggle to put a pin on it all. But I'd say those are the main focus areas.
Yeah, and that's actually already a very interesting topic, I think, is that you are very visible, let's say, online, right? You, like you just said, you have a number of different profiles and you do LinkedIn learning and publish more than that. But also the Blue Sky and the X or LinkedIn, there's a lot that we can see from you. So you're very vocal. Do you do that explicitly to make sure that you are seen, or is it just something that inherently comes from you? Yeah,
so it got a little bit choppy there in the first few seconds, but I think I got the gist of it. It's, I started off with a blog a number of years ago, and I'll tell you what I'd done, guys, right? I had a master's degree dissertation. Specialist area was Bayesian theorem, which is the underpinning of ML. And in particular, back in 2016, I carved that up into a series of blog posts, and that kickstarted a cadence. And I just started to write. And what I indirectly created a marketing channel, which I never really anticipated at the time, and started to get a little bit of a profile. I just started to share that content across different platforms, started to build connections, and almost built a little bit of a flywheel. I'm not a marketer. I'm technical. I think there's value though in technically minded people building and shipping their ideas. I'm a firm believer in that it's not good building in a vacuum completely, and putting ideas out into the world is how we can get feedback from our peers, people that we respect, people that we might not know of, and help us fine tune and evolve and grow. And those are the kind of drivers as to why I do that. And it's also good for me to learn from others.
So I'm curious. There is a crazy amount of content out there. And it seems like that grows by the minute, maybe even, and not even the day. When you go for instance, publishing a course, is that something that you maybe touched upon yourself and then you dove into that and you thought, this is something I need to educate people on? Is it something that you explicitly choose, hey, I think there's still room for this course? How does that work for you?
It's a good question. So I'll answer that in two parts. So for me, it might be a client engagement. It might be a problem from a client. And like my blog, as much as it can help others, is also my blog is me writing to me. I mean, that sounds
your external memory, right?
Yeah, I've outsourced that part of my memory, right? It's quite embarrassing the number of times I've searched for something, especially in the Microsoft Bot Framework days, when I felt like I was down at the frontier, working with beta versions of the SDK, and I'd be like, oh, what's the answer to that? And I'd find it. So it's almost notes to myself. Sometimes they resonate with people, sometimes they don't, and that's cool. And I find that if I can write it about a concept or an idea that I've learned or just worked on or trying to understand, then it helps me crystallize that understanding for myself, and it proves to myself that I know it. The next step beyond that is, and this is, I find, like a real art, is to, because often when I create a course, maybe a training platform or provider will come to me, or I will pitch to them because I think there is a need for this, or it's because I stumbled with this, right? Or I've already kind of got some of the content, but it could be better. But that creating a course comes normally with constraints, and those constraints generally are the length of the course, right? And really trying to distill complex concepts into concise lessons and modules can be a task. And it really, that's like the next level, really, is like, you've sanded off the rough edges. You've extracted out all the bits that aren't really required, and you have a concise course. The courses take more work. So for the courses, it's a combination of market demand or I think that actually I know other people that have struggled with this. There's nothing out there at the minute that does this in a concise fashion, because other cloud providers and vendors, the documentation is great, but you have to look everywhere for it. A course gives you instant knowledge. Like, you've just accelerated, it's like the hockey stick thing. You've just accelerated your learning of a topic and got a really good on-ramp. That's what I find is good with the courses for people.
Yeah, I totally agree on that one. Because, for instance, yesterday I was talking to a customer and we were talking about Azure reservations and savings plan for compute. And there's like a number of different types of things that you can do or enable or make sure that are set up to make sure that you cost optimize. And then literally at the end, the customer said, I have the feeling everything you said was somewhere in documentation. So, yeah, that's true. But
you Microsoft people are also pushing links every 3 minutes in a conversation normally. We know that. Like, here's a link for that. And here's a link for that.
What I wanted to go for there is the documentation nowadays is pretty decent because we also have all of those AI tools depending on and building on top of that documentation. So it needs to be somewhere. But trying to get all of that in one place, that's actually what you do when you sculpt a course and make sure that you add all the information that you need to add in there, right? It might be from 10 different
There's a difference
sources.
between explaining everything that's there and helping someone having the information for their use case. And I think course most of the time mostly fits that. Like, I have this use case, this course title seems the same. So it will indeed like be boiled down to the bits you need. And there's probably much more, but like it's not for you at that moment.
100%, guys. Like, I've done a 6 or 7 part series on Semantic Kernel, right? I knew that it just went V1 And I thought, right, now's the time to make significant investments in this technology, because there's regular updates to the SDK. There's a growing developer community. The GitHub repos are actively being maintained. As they're right, this solves a real problem here. So let's understand the fundamentals of all the bits. So again, I wrote the articles to myself, and then I thought, actually, after I had immediately written each blog post, I jumped onto Camtasia and recorded a 5 to 10 minute video, right? 2 different audiences, right? So people who prefer the longer form content, or people who might just want the headlines. Free course. This is not a plug, by the way. It's free. It's out there, right? Honestly, right.
And even if it was, Jamie, that's okay, because I will even add links to the description, or in the description of the episode, because this might also help you gain new audience, right? That can benefit your content.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind, man. So yeah, that those 2 channels, so to speak, were very good ways for me to reaffirm knowledge about the SDK, and then it resonated with other people, right?
Yeah.
Which is a cool thing.
Like, to me, like I've written some blog posts, some poor blog posts, some less poor but not great ones. Doing a podcast, did some public speaking, but I never did a course. Like, and I can imagine the undertaking, it's much more towards writing a book than just writing a blog post, because you can spend a lot of time fine tuning. But like, those are like a talk, single topic. Need to be able to do this within an hour.
Yeah.
But on a talk, also you can improvise, right?
Yeah, and just I wouldn't know how to start. How do you choose, like, where to go? What? Because I can imagine you need to really understand who are you making this for, because otherwise you might go into real detail in one of your topics and less in the other. Yeah, you need to really make conscious decisions when you're creating a course, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. You do. It kind of depends. Like, sometimes, like, the training provider will tell me, they'll say, hey, the audience we want this audience to be at this level, right? So that affects how deep I will go. But I here's an example. I won't like name, but one of the briefs were like, we need this to be done in 30 to 35 minutes. And my gut, I was like, this ain't possible. And I explained why. And you know what? They were cool with it. So the constraints are one thing, but to your point, it's a little bit of a, like, I think a lot of what we do in technology, right, it sits at the intersection of science and art. So it's not completely like mechanical when you're doing the courses. You've got to like go with your experience and your gut as well, as to, right, if I put myself in the learner's shoes, I've only got 60 minutes. What would I need to know to help me succeed? Like, what did the previous version of me not know, and how could I have created that on ramp to help me get from A through to F, or however many points were needed? What were the high level bullet points? And I start with the end goal, and then I try and identify the high level pillars that are involved to take the person through that arc or that journey. And that is a good technique for me. And then within each pillar, I'll think about, right, we'll cover this concept here. We've got 8 minutes for this module, and then we've got 6 for this. And I'll try, and I've listened, I open sourced my course technique, right? It's on my blog, right? So it's evolved over the last few years, and it's out there. People can look at it, they can take it. My whole production approach to a course.
But it probably also requires a certain way of thinking, right?
Yeah, it does, because as people that are in the technical community, it can be very hard to, not hard, but it can be easy to get so focused on the ones and zeros and forget about the story and the narrative. And because sometimes I think like we forget how much people that we all know in the community. And like a learner who is at, say, one level, they just need to know the headlines. They just need to know a story, be able to understand concepts. They don't need to get right down into the ones and zeros. That's a different way of thinking. So when I do that type of course, I have to put on my consultancy hat and say, well, actually, they don't care about the semicolons and the code linters and the maybe like the best practice or the architecture. They need to understand the high level components, what they do, why you would use them, and where you would use them, and how you can use them at a very high level. You know, what the 5 W's: what, where, why, how, and I forget what the others are. But sometimes that's just enough, so they can then present a story to their senior and say, "Hey, I watched this course. It does ABC." And they might say, in engineering, "Okay, let's make investments in this because we have this business problem, and we can overlay what we've just learned in this course to this business problem." And so I'm trying to think about it from those sort of perspectives, and I try and weave in real world problems based on like past experiences. So yeah, it does require some different approaches to thinking rather than just hardcore coding.
Yeah, and I think it's very impressive that you also, like you said, open sourced your course, the way you build courses. Because
thank you.
But that really shows that you care about educating, or at least sharing information, instead of doing it only for your own gain, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think that this is, you know, it's going to sound a bit woo-woo, right? And this is not my, it's not why I do it, but like the more that you put out inadvertently over time, it's just, you know, I'm hitting off on a tangent here, right? But I read quite a few and listened to quite a few of, are you people familiar with Seth Godin, the marketer? No?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I listened to his book, Lynchpin. And that really inspired me. Because I got to tell you guys, like, I was nervous to click publish on that WordPress blog. I
can imagine.
Yeah, like, and it's your ideas, it's your thoughts, and like and who am I? Who am I? Like, you know, who am I to say, come, read this, read that? I had to get over that, right? But listening to his work and he had a podcast that ran for 2 years, just a running 20-minute podcast called Akimbo. I would recommend it to anybody who's listening to this. It ran for 2 years, and just listening to his works and ideas and thoughts kind of inspired me. And what I took from a lot of his ideas was that he had a book called The Idea Virus, and I think one of the concepts was ideas that spread win. So it's just about like shipping work, getting ideas from the community, and it can actually help me improve as well. Like, so it's a two-way thing. I guess it's almost symbiotic in terms of a relationship between I get stuff out of it, but so do people at the other side of it. And then equally, you know, I've got kids that I have to feed and bills that I have to pay. So there's right. Let's be real. So it kind of helps with that as well. But I can't. I was talking about this the other day. I can't not do this stuff because I've been doing it since I was a kid, and even if you know, there weren't a commercial interest, I'd still be doing a lot of this. You know,
It just because you have to.
Yeah, can you resonate with that? Does that relate with you guys?
Definitely,
yeah,
definitely.
It does actually. Well,
I was sitting here doing this.
Yeah, true. Yeah, true. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke at conferences. We write external memory blogs.
Google ourselves back.
Yeah, that also happens, and record the occasional video here or there. But still, I think if you look in the industry, there's this really there's two different sides to the story, right? So there's the one side where people are really invested in community, in sharing their information and their knowledge, and making sure that we improve together. Because, I mean, knowledge is the one thing that you multiply by sharing, right? But there's also that part of the industry that's really holding back, that's really shielding off everything that they're doing. And to me, that feels a bit like the old way. But I'm not really sure if that's truly the case.
Yeah, old order thinking and new old. That's such a there's a certain company that comes to mind, but I ain't gonna name. So, I think your listeners probably know who it is, but there's
I'm thinking about one that got breached recently. Yeah, probably the same one.
So I just like I got a mixed feelings on that, because on one respect, right, there has to be competitive edge, right? But on the flip side of the coin, if you've gained your competitive edge by ingesting the world's data and then commercializing that, right? So, I don't I just don't know what the answer is to that, because that's been happening for years though, before the advent of conversational AI, right? That was happening in search as well.
Yeah.
So
I think it's been happening almost forever.
I think it's also it's always a wave, right? I think for you see in our core, when we started, if you look at, for instance, .NET Stack or whatever, it
wasn't there, man, when I started.
Of course, it wasn't there. But when that started, and we were already there, it kind of started together with me in a professional sense. But it was pretty closed up.
For sure.
And from 14, 15, you saw Microsoft slowly turning into a hippie, giving everything away and building editors and opening up .NET. And and then in the same period, you see the companies that were just a geeky search engine or some community thing or whatever, or to look at your old classmates or whatever, starting to just basically be part of the US government. I'm it's weird how the world works, and it will probably also will get some pushback, and I don't know. I think it will never be one or the other.
Of course not. And to me, it feels also a little bit like in the early days of cloud, we did those cloud envisioning sessions where we would actually invite customers into our office before breakfast and would serve breakfast to them, and we would explain on why cloud and why it's interesting. And even then you saw a really decent group of companies think, well, this could actually become a thing. But also there was this group that said, oh no, but I want to literally hold on to what I currently have, and I don't want to lose this. But it's maybe also just the fear of the unknown, right?
Yeah. And it's funny because we had then the breakfast with everyone interested, and it's oh, this sounds interesting. And there were 5 or 6 companies in the same table. And there was the other one that was I don't know, was also alone because they didn't want to share that meeting with someone else. So there's definitely a really big
open systems and closed systems. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. It's funny.
And we knew them both. In the end.
Oscar, do you know what time it is?
Is it time for a totally random question?
It's time for a totally random question.
Oh, here you go. Here we go again.
Is it my time?
It's yours.
Okay. Okay, this is quite random. If animals could talk, which species would be the most annoying to have a conversation with, and why? What is this? That's you, Jamie.
Is this for me?
That's for you, yeah.
Wow.
Sorry.
Right. Guys, this is way out of left field. I think
it's called the totally random question.
It does what it says in the tin.
It's on par.
Yeah, it's on par. I think it might be the I'm going to say the common seagull.
Oh, I can.
They're even annoying when they don't speak.
Exactly. So I'm going to go with that because of just how much of it there is. And my own,
And mine?
I think that's point. Yeah,
Mine?
that's points. Like it's a good call. Yeah, it's like you have some chips in your hand.
yeah,
They're gone.
yeah. My, I'll tell you a very quick story actually. So I live right by the coast, right? And I've got two sons. My youngest, we were out having some like fish and chips, and literally the seagull just like walked over, very bold, very brave, and just went and took the whole fish out of his tray. Just,
Like
It didn't even fly.
Nah,
I mean, the one thing that sets it apart from like rats or something, didn't even use that one. Just
we, because you think they're just there, they ain't going to do much. You kind of get used to them. They're almost domesticized and or domesticated. And but yeah, just very bold. Just took it, and then my son just watched.
yeah.
So it was,
Maybe if they actually could, if they could talk, they might have said thanks.
yeah. Same time next week.
I'm not even sure if they would
No,
say
probably
that.
not.
Right?
Yeah,
It's
there
mine.
you go. You know it. Yeah.
Just look at Daniel.
Mine.
Yeah, mine.
That's the only word they need, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. Good one.
Yeah. Okay, so switching it up a bit. So one of the things that was mentioned in your bio is the fact that you're a Microsoft MVP in artificial intelligence. We haven't really touched upon the AI space just yet.
Talked about Semantic Kernel a bit.
We did talk about Semantic Kernel a little bit. What is it that surprised you most over the last couple of years in all of those different types of changes and developments that we've seen? Or maybe that has impressed you most. What changed it most for you?
Oh man, like guys, what an exciting time in the industry. It's one of the best. So I'm an old dog, right? I've been like 25 years professionally, and just these last 5 years have been awesome. Like it's so like I touched on it earlier. Like my master's was in Bayesian theorem in between 2010 and 2013. So I got an appreciation for part of speech tagging, named entity recognition, text analytics, building up a corpus, training data sets. I then built an API encapsulating all of that I could point at data. I actually turned it into a SaaS. Some of my earlier blog posts talk about that. Then come along in 2016, 2017, what were then known as cognitive services. One API endpoint.
Did all of that for you.
Oh my God. I had a love-hate relationship at the time because like you've blown apart what I've been working. I can just can see a little bit of cloud. So that from 2016, 2017, it's been such a buzz, right? That's 9 years, right? So it's not just the last couple of years. We went from there to Microsoft Bot Framework. We had Lewis, Language Understanding Intelligence Service, right? That was the inception point where I thought this CLU, conversational language understanding, is everything just seemed to coalesce. All of the tooling seemed to be getting there. We went from Bot Framework to Composer, and then that's when I felt everything just came together with Composer. I actually started building products with it. I built a call center in a box using somebody could pick up their phone. It had an integration with Twilio, right? So using Twilio media streams, it was speech to text, text to Lewis via the bot framework, Lewis to text, then text to speech, and then sending the translated in real time text to speech down the phone line. A whole end-to-end contact center solution to help public citizens in the UK get access to information quicker, right? Super helpful for people that might have, say, literacy issues, right? That was around about late 2018, 2019, 2020. I got to be honest, I kind of glazed over PVA. I'm a builder. I don't always want to be in a canvas. No offense to anybody who's in that space, just need to mention that. But because my experience has been, I need to lift the hood at some point. I am going to get a wacky requirement that Like, and the thing that I loved about Composer was the fact that you could create REST API calls within the canvas, so that satisfied the more custom requirements. You could
Mhm.
it was almost like a breakout point. You exit the interstate or the motorway, and then you can do your bit, then come back onto the the back road. But then last 2 or 3 years, well, I think everybody would know, like language models,
Mhm.
but when paired with semantic kernel, that is brought, I think, into the wider .NET ecosystem, which is just awesome, man. Like I'm using it.
It's weird though, like all the experience you have with like natural language and how to parse that and how to do something with that, like making a service, just goes away because the intent is clear suddenly.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Like that part there was the like inferring the intent without having to. And this is the cool bit about. I'm going to geek out about,
hit the
guys.
keywords.
Yeah. I'm going to geek out here about, man, right? But when you see that, like I was talking to a client, right, and they were trying to. They hadn't quite got the penny drop moment, right?
Mhm.
But that part about the intent, then just executing the code and the native function and the plugin and identifying in real time, it blew their minds, right? It really did. And then, but if you go back a few years, well, Lewis was kind of doing that,
Mhm.
but it was difficult to. You had to build your model, right?
Yeah, that took a few steps to get there, right?
Yeah. But now, yeah. So that's it. And now it's just, it just got wider. It's got more intelligence.
Mhm.
So yeah, like that. I went on quite a bit there, but like these last few years especially, like have been awesome.
Well, that's actually something that I've said quite a few times, and I think also in episodes, that it's quite the time to be a developer. Not only a developer, but it's also quite a time to be a developer. And then there's so much going on for you that you don't have to take care about or think about anymore. I mean, I'm old enough to have even done assembler in school.
Wow.
Yep.
Left shift, right shift.
It was it was only one practical and exam, but we did have to. And then we went. I think in school even we went from Java and Delphi. Actually,
Delphi in school.
Yeah, I did Delphi in
Fancy.
school. Yeah. And then I went on to .NET, and of course we started with SQL Connection, SQL Command, and then Entity Framework came along.
Oh yeah.
We've come such a long way. There's so many layers of abstraction now and stuff that we don't have to think about anymore. But I can imagine, Jamie, if you have that knowledge and that experience of actually building all of that stuff yourself, the magic is just a little bit more magical when you see what's happening with AI right now, right?
In short, yes. Yeah, because it gives you like a massive appreciation for, like, do you ever get that experience, like, when you're in your dev environment and I still get these like just mind-blowing moments, right? And I know roughly how it's working on, like, I know roughly how it's, but it still blows my mind, like, when you're getting like a co-pilot experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I nearly swore there. I was about, but it's like,
it's exactly what you need, right?
Yeah. And I'm like, wow, like just that is, and then because I know that, and I'm like, man, you just know like what the next things you've anticipated, what I want to do. I mean, it doesn't get it right all the time, right? But and then so that's coding, right? But then from like we touched on earlier, like I built a whole API in a small SaaS product. But all the steps I had to go through just to do that. And then now there's an API. And then just very recently, like in the last 5 to 7 years, I remember what you had to do to get a decent Lewis model. Okay. And get that production ready. And I said, well, now because the language models in the cloud from other vendors have been, they're so good. And then you pull them on, or whichever one you want.
What is it, 1,800 models now on Hugging Face?
Really?
Yeah, I think 1800 plus models, something like that.
There you go.
I mean,
Insane.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is insane.
Yeah. So
But
I got an appreciation for like what's going, like where we were even just very recently and where we're at now. And then when you've got say an SDK like Semantic Kernel, which now abstracts out,
Mm-hmm.
you can just swap in the models whichever way you want. And on the
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft Learn site, this is actually a really good shout out. They detail what you would have to do to say implement automatic function calling if you didn't have Semantic Kernel, and there's a whole bunch of steps that you would have to dance through to implement the serialization backwards and forwards to determine which native function and plugin to call. But the SDK is doing all that for you. So yeah, we've came so far.
If you look at Semantic Kernel, for instance, now indeed, like with the models, and you see, if you think back how still your Siri or Hey Google or whatever Alexa is working, and you can rebuild that in really short time now with these abstractions. And I'm really hitting this technology. It's like, why didn't this move yet? And of course they're doing stuff. I heard Alexa is also doing some movements there, but still yesterday it took me 3 or 4 attempts to hit the right keywords to turn off some light somewhere.
that's
so annoying.
That's so crappy. And
Because
I'm really,
if you look at Semantic Kernel, like I can build this in a day.
I'm really curious actually, because this is a nice segue into, I think on your blog, Jamie, I also saw something about you tinkering around with Raspberry Pis and doing some home automation there as well. Just like you said, I have lights in the garden. They are outside. But when I say turn off the outside lights, it doesn't understand. When I say turn out the lights in the garden, it said, oh, okay. Okay.
That's a yesterday problem, right?
It should be a yesterday problem. But what do you play around with as far as home automation goes?
Yeah, this might surprise you and maybe some listeners, but I like where I live, I have like the least inside like my home, like the very least amount of technology. But I've got like a small office shed thing in the backyard, which is my work zone. So like when I go in there, it's work. When I come out, it's not. Just a mental disconnect, right?
Yeah.
So that said, right, last year, I decided to look into some Raspberry Pi type stuff. And because, right, so actual security as well, right? Because here's the thing, right? You can get a subscription, but you pay per device, and then your data's up in the cloud and blah blah blah. And it's data from like cameras maybe in your house or whatever. I thought, I wonder if I could build something like this. Right, the builder in me. I got a bunch of Raspberry Pis, and lo and behold, I built basically a home security system that I can monitor. I can monitor it from my phone, this laptop. There is one of them's got motion detection, okay, using a passive infrared sensor. And what it does is, there's a blog going to go live here's a preview actually, it's going to go live next week, right? It's a motion detection system, right? So it detects motion, it captures a picture, it then spins up a Telegram bot, pushes a message to a Telegram bot, then I get a message on the cell phone with a picture of, right. Part 2 of that series will use Semantic Kernel and image classification to detect who's in the picture. If it's me or anybody that I know of, it doesn't send a notification. If it isn't, then you get the notification. You see where it's going, right? So it's a combination of like .NET, Python, Raspberry Pis, photo detection, and image classification. Those are that's the only automation that's in use. And I reckon I spent probably no more than £150, £200 plus a little bit of time. No subscription, no any other costs. It just sits there and runs. And so that's basically it.
Yeah, but it's so cool to hear that even with all of the possibilities we do have, sometimes a problem or a challenge hits you in a way where you think, I wonder if I could do that myself.
Yeah, it's just in us, isn't it? And here's the thing: is that I don't code much Python at all, so I was turning my attention to a language model to understand, like Unix and stuff. Like we touched on it, so abstracted out from the command line sometimes. I'm like, man, I haven't touched Unix for like 20 years.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and then you tell GitHub Copilot or whatever other model you have there, how do I do this in Linux command line? So try this.
Yeah. I totally trashed one of the pies. I had to re-image it.
Yep.
And it totally got trashed. But dude, man, you can get a Raspberry Pi for less than £15 or €16. A Pi Zero 2. And you can code on that thing. Like,
Yep.
You can get a Raspberry Pi 4 for about €45, £45. You can get Visual Studio Code on it. And actually, you could build something and make money. Like,
it's awesome, right?
Yeah, what a time to be a developer.
Yeah, it boils back to that one. What a time to be in this space and to be able to do all of these awesome things.
Yeah, I'm guessing we will get like that kind of device soon that will host an NPU or something where we can run a local model on the edge pretty easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like that's not far.
It's a matter of time.
It is a matter of time. I can talk about this. This was a number of years ago. It was a consulting gig and it was in the early stages. And their problem was, it was actually for a customer in Europe, right? But they had challenges in the manufacturing plant, in the automobile industry, right? And what they wanted was a way to guide engineers and staff on the production line, right? Using voice because their hands were busy, right? So I was like, yeah, this could be done. However, here was the constraint, right? They did not always have connectivity, right? They needed a model, and at the time it was going to have to be Lewis, right? That's how long ago it was. I was like, oh damn it. Well, I'm not sure how you can really do this without maybe getting like a container or something. Or, well, it never went anywhere. But now, maybe a model in the browser, or who knows?
We now even have the disconnected containers so that you can take Azure AI services and run them offline locally.
Yeah. There's that. Go through that application thing, and so like what a time, man! Like,
it's so great. I feel like we could be talking for ages, but we do have to take time into consideration just a little bit. Based on what we've discussed today, is there anything that you would like to get back to, or maybe something that you would like to add, or maybe have a final thought?
I mean, for anybody who listens to this, or who's maybe they're nervous about maybe shipping their ideas or their thoughts, just do it, right? What the Nike advert, just do it. And also try and build something like a little. Set yourself a timeline. It could be 7 days or 30 days. Try and build something and ship it and market it and see what happens. Don't completely get focused up on the tech, but try and solve like a small problem and then market it a little bit and see what happens. And final thing would be, if you can, like, ship regular content and stuff that you're passionate about and interested in, because I guarantee that if you do that for 12 months, like, good things will happen. It could be once a week, it could be twice a month, it could be, try that. That's all that's all I could suggest, actually.
No, I really like that one. And also, I think the market, you said build something and publish it. I think the market is now more understanding of things being published and then maybe not being 100% finished and polished and good to go. Because even the big players do it this way now, right? Yeah. They first ship something and then see if it has enough users to actually finish it off.
Yeah, and like always, I think it is much more finished than you think yourself, because you're so close to your own detail and problem. If you take 2 steps back, like it's already good. Like, you need more go, less stop. Like,
wow.
Just what he said. Just do it.
Yeah.
Let's end on that one. Jamie, thank you so much for being a guest. I had a lovely conversation with you.
Thank you, gents.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to Betatalks, the podcast. Betatalks is made possible by Badbit Managed Software Development.
We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.